Okay, so right now we are in Lightroom. I have narrowed down the photos that I want to use down to these 4 images. So normally the way I start out is I will take the original images, I'll edit a little bit as I shoot to make sure I'm getting what I want. But then I'll take the original images, update the white balance, maybe make a couple of changes to the highlights and the shadows, darks, contrast, etc. Just kind of making some minor changes. I'll adjust the crop to be the full size original just because I never know what I want things to look like fully until I've done all my editing. And then I will go ahead and apply those changes to all the photos that I will be using for a composite. So that way when I get ready to do the work, everything is already updated in the exact same colors or tones or hues or whatever changes I make. So these photos are already highlighted. What I'm doing from here is I would basically just select the ones I want. I'm showing you the ones I flagged, and I'd click open in Photoshop. When I find it, edit in Photoshop. I already have them open just for things to go a little faster. So pretend I clicked that, and we're gonna jump straight into Photoshop. So the first thing you need to do once you enter Photoshop is to figure out what your main image is going to be, the one that you want to be on the bottom. Maybe it'll have the least amount of edits. So for me, with this photo, that's going to be photo 112. This is the main image, but there are a couple things I want to change. What I'm looking to change are to pull out, to basically just perfect the glass, because this is my subject that I'm circling on. And then I'm probably going to just change some highlights or shadows that I'm pulling in from another image. So what you may not see on this glass, and this is just comes with glass photography, is that even though reflections are natural, you actually want to pull all of them out. The glass or the bottle or whatever you're using is always supposed to be just like pristine. So all of these things that I'm moving my mouse over right now, these are all reflections. This little section here, this orange peel and ice cube in the back of the glass, all of these are reflections that I don't want in the glass. So what I did was I took photo 120, I'm clicking up top, and for the most part, I moved everything out of the way. It's not absolutely perfect, but I pulled everything out and took a shot on its own, so that way I knew I was going to make a composite, and I was going to pull this glass into the photo, right over what is the photo number 112. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm literally just going to hit copy and paste. So Command A to select it. This is the 120 that I want to do. I'm going to do Command C. If you have a PC, it's going to be Control C, or it was Control A to select all, then copy. I'm going to come right back over to 112, and now I'm going to paste it in. So Command V or Control V, depending on if you have a Mac or a PC. So what you have happening here is now the layer that I just used is sitting right on top of the background. So obviously we only want to use part of it, so that's what we'll be showing you next. What I want to make sure that you do and get in the habit of doing is naming your layers. What I do is I normally just I normally title it with the file name, and because sometimes I need to go back and grab what I had before and I have no idea which file it is if I label it ice cube or orange or whatever it is. A lot of people do groups and all sorts of other stuff. That's just, I haven't gotten to that point where it's so complicated that I need to do that. Sometimes I'll label things, but I still always have the file number sitting in there for me to be able to pull from. Okay, so I have this sitting over top. The next step is I need to actually make sure that the image that is sitting over the background image is in the identical location as the background image. And this is why when you're doing a composite, using a tripod and not touching the shutter, or using like a timer shutter, which I use like a 2-second one so there's no shake, is really important, because if the subjects in the image are in different locations, it's going to be really difficult to do a composite that's just easy. You really just want everything in the exact same place. So the way I've done that is now I'm going to go right here, if you see my mouse, and I'm going to lower the opacity of that top layer. So now This is only set to 47%. It doesn't matter what opacity you set it to. And since the glass is what I'm pulling in, I'm going to zoom in. You can go over here to zoom key, or you can hit Z. And I'm just going to press this in. I really just want to see the glass. And what I want to know, and actually, sorry, I'm going to zoom right back out for a second, which, sorry about that, but I want you to see when it's on fit on screen, and did I click fit on screen? Yes. I want you to see that it looks like it's in the exact same location right now, even if I pull the opacity back up. So it looks like it's pretty much in the same location. There might be a slight difference. When the opacity is down, you can't really tell as much that there's a difference. What you're seeing most of the time are like the differences in highlights and shadows can sometimes throw you off. So that's why I zoom in super close. And then additionally, what I like to do is find some kind of spot or speck that I can track against that's not too big, that I can easily see where it goes on top. And I'm going to choose this speck right here. I'm circling my mouse over it. So I'm going to come back over to the layer here, and I'm going to turn off and on this invisibility or the visibility of the layer. So when you come in really close, now you can see that there is actually quite a difference in where this is. So what am I going to do? I'm going to move my mouse I'm going to move this image with the move tool. So I'm going to come up here. It's at the very top of my screen, this little cross. And it says move tool. I'm highlighted on 120. 120, not the background image, is the one I want to move. Which way do I want to move it? Again, I'm going to move the invisibility, or turn the invisibility off and on so I can see. So in this case, I want to move it to the left and maybe down a little. So I'm going to use just my arrow keys on my keyboard. Move it over till what it looks about right. Let's take a look. I'm going to turn off and on. There's no way I just got that right on the first try. And yeah, I think I might have gotten it right. Sometimes it's a little hard to tell. So I'm actually going to move it over one. And now with my keyboard, and now see if there's a difference. It's a little hard. Move it over one more. Now it's definitely off. I'm going to put it back. I'm going to move it to the right now. It's like right there. I think it's where I had it is right. So I'm going to move that back. And I'm just doing that to make sure, because sometimes it's hard to see, is if you move it over one and you're like, oh, now I see a difference, then you know for sure you were on the right spot. But looking at a bunch of these different specks on the screen, I think we're there. I think it's really hard to see, and I'm looking at it really closely. But I do think I don't see anything except one little orange speck moving, and that's that highlight, or that's that shadow. So I think we're good. So what do we do next? I am going to make sure the layer is visible. I'm going to pull the opacity straight back up to 100, and I'm going to also zoom back out. I don't know all the shortcuts. I'm going to do fit on screen. And now I'm going to create a layer mask. And what the layer mask does is it allows me to brush in what I want and erase it out if I make a mistake without actually affecting the image that I've copied in as a layer. So it's really useful to be able to do that, because if you make a mistake, you don't go, oh crap, I lost it all. You actually get to keep it all. You just have to undo what you did. So layer mask, coming down here, I'm on 120. I'm going to hit this little box here. It's a white box with a black circle. I'm going to click it. Now nothing's changed. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to invert it. So it's going to be Command I or Control I, depending on where you're at or what computer you're on. Now it's turned black, and suddenly the background image is here. Now I'm going to go to the brush tool. So we copied the layer through the transparency and the move tool. We made sure it was perfectly aligned. Then we created a layer mask and we inverted it, and now we're going to a brush tool. You can hit B or you can go straight to the brush tool. You want to have your hardness down to 0. It's just the level. If you look at this up here, you can see like it's just the edge is what it is, whether the edge is hard or soft. And you want for this, the hardness to be, you want it to be as low as possible. The size, I'm probably going to pull it up a little bit right now. I want the mode to be on lighten. I might change it to normal, but right now it'll bring in those lighter colors. Normal will bring in exactly what's behind it. opacity is to 100. That's just the level of, it's the level of fill or opacity of the brush itself. The flow is at 100, smoothing is at 0. So I'm going to, actually I want to check something really quick. Yes, okay. I'm going to literally now, I'm on, what I'm highlighted on is the brush mask. So remember I said, I'm sorry, the layer mask. Remember the layer mask I just said allows you to make edits, to brush things and erase things without affecting the actual image. So remember that when you're doing the brush tool, you want to be on that mask, because if you're on the image, you will be affecting it. Make sure you're highlighted on the right one. And now I'm going to brush the glass right in, and look what happens. All of these, all of those reflections are going away, and it's because I'm brushing in that back image that had all the reflections out of it. Right down there, there's one. I'm going a little outside the edge. That's okay, because I'm going to show you something else that you do to clean things up. Now notice that I'm avoiding this main, the main ice cube and the orange. I do want to pull that reflection out. I'm going to have to lower the, I'm going to zoom in and lower the size of the brush. So here's zoom. Come back to my brush tool and just lower that. So I don't want to go over the orange, because I want to keep the orange in, but I don't want the reflection of that ice cube and orange in. So I'm literally just brushing it right out and being really careful. And if I make a mistake, well, since I'm on the layer mask, I can just erase it. It's that simple. So I'm not going to do this too cleanly right now, just because I really want to be able to allow you to get through the video. But I think that's pretty good. Let's see what happened. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. Now I'm going to turn the background off and see how I did. I honestly did not do too bad. I caught most of that in. We'll clean this up here. So I'm going to go ahead and have that brush. I'm going to raise the size again. Just brush in some other pieces here. What did I miss? Make sure I get the edge of that glass. Again, if I go a little out the lines, it doesn't matter, because I would clean up the edges anyway, and I'm going to show you what I do. I really like turning the layers on and off so I can see what I'm doing, because what you can't always get is when it's on the background images, you can't always see what you've missed in the middle of the edit. So let me turn this back on. Let's see here. Okay, I'm going to keep this on. I'm going to zoom back in. I'm probably going to go over the edges just a little bit. I'm back on the brush tool, just to make sure I haven't missed any of it. All right. Now, you remember how I said on the mask tool, if you erase something, oops, if you can erase easily. So you can see I kind of cut into the orange, into the ice cube. So I'm literally just going to move my little mouse right over to the eraser. My brush is hardness all the way down. I'm probably going to, the opacity is up to 100. I'll probably leave the size as it is. Maybe a little smaller. And I'm going to brush my orange right back in. And I want to see how far that orange is going to go down. So I'm actually going to click on 120 up here for a second. Oops, not 120. I'm sorry. I'm going to turn my layer mask off and see how far it goes down. It actually goes far. So I'm going to erase a lot here. Again, worst case, I brush something back in. So a true composite that you're going to show off is going to take a good amount of time. I'm going to try and get through this fairly quickly. But I'm just brushing things back in right now. I'm going to try and get things through fairly quickly, but you know, it takes a lot of time and a lot of attention to detail, a lot of zooming in. Composites, if you're going to get into them, I mean, know that you're going to be spending a lot of time on them, and you'll get faster as you go, but you also are going to learn more things as you go, and so then you're trying new things, and it's one of those never-ending cycles. But I don't know, my photography has gotten a lot further now that I've learned how to set up shots for this and really get all of that in. So you can see I'm just brushing that ice cube back in. Maybe I missed that spot there. And you can go back and forth. you know, you can erase, you can brush. Again, you're probably going to pay a little bit more attention. I'm moving back to the brush tool now and lowering it, lowering the size, I mean. You're going to pay a lot more attention and go a lot slower when you're just starting out. And I'm just trying to make sure I get the edges here back out. And something you can do, so I don't know if you can see, I can see it, hopefully you can through the video. There's this one little section right here that's, you know, I lost it when I brought the orange back in. So something you can do, if I go to my eraser tool and I lower the flow is how much it's going to actually bring in at once. So I can actually, if I bring this eraser to the edge, it's not actually going to come all the way. Oops, and I'm on the eraser and I don't want that. I want the brush. If you bring it all the way to the edge, it's actually not going to come fully to the edge. So I won't really go over that orange again. So it's just a little trick of how these brushes and erasers and everything work. So the more you bring down the flow, it won't extend as far to the edge of the brush, essentially. Okay, I'm gonna call this good, I think, just to keep moving on. Just gonna come around here. Let's see what we've got next. View fit on screen. There's a lot of issues with this glass. We're going to come back to it. We're going to clean it up. But for the most part, you can see this. So the one thing I do want to show you, though, and you can see, for example, right over here, I'll zoom in over this blood orange. I kind of missed a spot. Or I kind of went way too overboard. I said I was going outside the lines on purpose. So now I'm going to turn off the background. You don't always have to turn off the background. I want to. It makes it easier for me. And I'm going to use the the polygon lasso. So again, I'm on this 120 masked layer. I'm going to come up here to my lasso tool, polygon lasso tool. I love this thing. Professionals use the pen a lot more because you can cut things out and create them as like separate paths, and it makes life very easy. But from a beginner's perspective, and I have not mastered the pen yet, the polygon lasso is really simple to use, and it does fairly clean lines. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing here. So magnetic lasso, I'm just going to click. I'm clicking on the edge, the very edge of the glass, and I'm trying to be as careful as I can. Again, I don't want to go too fast that I miss stuff and have to come back, but at the same time, I want to go kind of fast for the video. And I'm just clicking as I go. So where there are little curves, I'm just kind of wrapping. I'm doing smaller clicks and drags here. Oops. Okay, so I got that whole side. I'm gonna come up. I just keep clicking to close my circle. You can see that little dot is about to show up. Close that. I'm gonna hit delete. I have a clean edge. Fantastic. Okay, now let's do the other side. And I don't know how clean I actually got that just now, but we'll see. So I'm going to do that for this whole thing. Now, what I'll normally do after I do the magnetic lasso, which I'll do like get the majority of stuff, is I'll come back in with the eraser tool, and I'll really be just zoom in and super carefully get the, all of the just edges, make sure everything's really clean. And by the way, as we're going through this, I just noticed right in the middle of the glass, I completely missed a section. And this is what I mean by sometimes it's good to, how do I close that? There we go. Sometimes it's good to turn off the background, because I don't know if you can see right here at the bottom of the glass, I can see some of that transparent layer in the background. So I actually just missed bringing that in. And that's why I like turning the background off and on and making sure I haven't missed pieces. There we go. Okay, coming back to the polygon lasso tool. Here we go. And again, this is not the cleanest thing in the world. This is the second recording I've done. It's the third time I'm editing this, because while I'm starting to learn my Photoshop skills, video editing is not one of them. And so I've deleted things by accident. So I have to redo the recording. So The first recording was very long. I'm hoping to get under that time because the first recording was like an hour and this isn't supposed to be an easy edit. So, but it just goes to show that composites take a lot of time and patience. So I'm finishing up this, this magnetic lasso, or the, sorry, I keep saying magnetic lasso, which is one of the options, the polygon lasso. I am finishing that up, deleting that so we can move straight to the next layer. Okay. And what I just did there is I found another spot on the transparent layer that had the 120 layer that I didn't want there. So I just grabbed the eraser really quick if you were wondering what I was doing. And I erased. And what I'll do, and I'll do it after this, is I'll zoom out and again I'll check and make sure I'm not seeing any weird spots that have shown up that I missed adding back in. And we're just about done here. Okay. All right, so let me fit on screen here. Actually, I'm just gonna zoom out. I'm not gonna fit on screen. And I'm just gonna give a quick look. I see a little spot there. I'm gonna erase it. I think I got most of it. Scroll over here. Yeah, so I'm gonna turn this background image back on. Boom, there you go. Okay, now we've got a somewhat clean glass. There are more things I want to make changes to the glass for, but first I want to bring in the next layer. The next layer that I want to bring in is 113. So for 113, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the same thing. First things first, I'm going to copy the image by hitting select all first, then copy, Control C or Command C. Come right back over to my main image. I am going to paste it in. You don't have to click anything, just paste. I'm immediately going to name my layer 113. Okay. I'm going to fit this on screen. Let's take a quick look now and see what we're seeing. What is the difference? Okay. Well, there's obviously a difference in the glass, so I don't want the glass this time. So actually for 113, I actually want to use almost the entire image, which I know sounds a little crazy because I chose 112 and there was a reason for that, which I can no longer remember. That sometimes happens in composites. But I really like the shadows a lot more in 113, but I think, oh, I remember the glass placement. That was what it was. So see, I choose these things and now I'm explaining, so I forgot. What it was it was the, it was the orange placement that I liked 112 on. And the glass was the most important subject. But for 113, it was the shadows I wanted. So this time I'm going to bring in everything except for the glass. So 120, we brought in the glass and nothing else. 113, we brought in the, we're going to bring in everything but the glass. Could I have done it the opposite way? Could I have changed it so I took 113 and then brought in the background or the glass of one, or the orange strip and the ice cube of the background, and then 120, the glass? Yes, it's the way you do it. So again, remember, we want things to be exactly where in the exact same spot. So I'm going to lower the opacity on this 113 layer. Taking a quick look, doesn't look too bad, but let's zoom in. Let's find some kind of speck on the image, and this time I'm not really looking at the glass. Let's find some. Here's a little line in the wood, and let's turn it off and on and see if it's the same spot. And it's pretty close, but it's not quite there. So it looks like it's up. If I turn this off and on, it looks like it needs to, it looks like it's a little higher than it should be. So I'm going to go to the move tool. Now I can use my keyboard to move it down or up or over, whichever direction. Let's try this now. I moved it down 2. I'm going to bring it down a little more. 2 more with my keyboard. Wow, okay, I made a big difference there, and that was not a good difference. What happened? Okay. Way too far. I think I move back up here and see what happens. Okay, I gotta pay attention here. Let's see. I think it needs to come up 1. See, sometimes it's really hard to tell. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go and find another speck. How about over here? Let's check out this right here. Let's look at that. Well, that's not moving. That's in the exact same spot, which is exactly what I like to see. But let's take a few more. Let's look at this speck now. I think this is in the right place. So next step, increase the opacity. We can go ahead and fit this on the screen so we can see. So zoom back out. We've set things up in the exact same location. Next thing is to create a layer mask down here with my mouse. Invert it, Control I or Command I. We're going to go to the brush. You can hit B or you can go to the brush. Have this be on lighten. Again, you can be on normal if you want. I'm going to bring the flow all the way back up to 100. We lowered it before. I'm also going to increase the size of my brush substantially because otherwise we could be doing this all day. And I'm going to just start brushing. I'm brushing it right in, and you're not seeing much of a difference right now because we haven't actually, I mean, we're just on the backdrop right now, but you're going to see, there it is. We're brushing in that orange. You can see the difference coming in. And again, I'm going to brush everything except the glass, but I'm going to go over the edges of the glass just a little bit. All right. Just a little bit. All right, let's see how much I missed. Turn off the background. Whew, it's pretty bad. And the glass, I actually can keep the glass on right now. So all of these spots I missed, I'm literally just gonna go ahead and paint right over them. But see, now I can see if I've missed them, which is why I like to turn that transparency off. Okay, so while I keep doing this, I'm going to review again with you because I'm going to try and keep repeating. To create a composite, we are copying one layer right over the top of another, reducing the opacity so we can use a move tool and check to make sure that everything is in the exact same spot so we don't have to worry about things looking funky or blurry or whatever. Then we are creating a layer mask. We are inverting that mask, and then we are using the brush tool on the mask, not the actual layer of the image, to brush in, the areas that we want. Now, I think I got it all for the most part. I'm sure I'll find a little other spots. So this time, last time when we were doing the 120 layer, I was bringing the glass in. So when I went to the edges, I erased everything on the edge. This time, I'm actually going to come back to the glass, which is in the exact same spot, so I don't have to turn layers off and on, which is very nice. And I'm going to highlight the entire glass with, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to take the polygon lasso tool and get the entire glass and hit delete and see how things look. So again, I'm on the polygon lasso tool. I'm sorry I went to without pointing. It's right here. Now, I'm going to come up and really carefully, and I'm actually gonna delete that. I want to zoom in a little bit more because you guys can't see something this far away. All right. Okay. Let's try this again. Now you can see, hopefully it's close enough. I'm not gonna be, again, the most careful in the world because, as I said, this is not my main composite, and you guys will take that time to do, oh, see, and I went way too far. I'm gonna have to fix that. I made a mistake while I was talking. But again, you're gonna take a lot of time and you're gonna be really careful with this. I mean, this composite for me, they're not fast. I mean, a lot of you guys say that, like, oh, you're so good at composites, and it takes practice and time, and I can tell you, I do not. I'm not good at these yet. You know, these tools that I'm showing you now, they're those basic fundamentals from that beginner level. I think Photoshop is something you never stop learning. It's just, there's so many things, and I even have a friend who's also a photographer, and she's taking classes right now, and she even said, her teacher had said, you know, we can only show you so much. You know, we can't teach you everything. There's just, the tool is too versatile. Okay, I have this entire thing highlighted, so I'm actually just going to delete it. Because I'm on the mask layer of 113, delete. You saw a little bit of a difference. I'm not gonna, well, should I clean this last up? See, I'm such a perfectionist, but I'm trying not to be in here. I went to the brush tool. Actually, I think it's supposed to be, I can't even remember. I think it was the eraser tool I wanted at this very edge. Oops, well, see, just, never mind. I'm not gonna worry about that. Okay, bringing the background back in. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Fit on screen, not looking too bad. The last thing I wanna do is I wanted to bring in a final layer just to bring in a little bit of shadow. And that was layer 110. It does not match perfectly. The lighting was a little differently on this one. You can see in the glass, the lighting was different. But Command-Alt to copy, Command-C or Control-C. I'm sorry, Command-A, all to select and copy. I'm coming back to my 112 image, Command-V to paste it in. We can take a look at it, turn it off and on. Does it look like it matches? It does, but does it really when we zoom in? So lower the opacity. Zoom in. Let's find a speck. I don't think that scratch did very well for me, but I liked using this little one over here. So let's grab that, turn the layer off and on. Not quite. I'm going to go to the move tool up here. Now I'm going to, with my keyboard, move it over, but first I actually need to see where I'm going here. Looks like I need to move it over and up maybe. So over to the left, maybe 1 or 2 and up. Let's check that out. Maybe go up 1 more. Over 1 more. Well, that looks, I think, good. Let's find another speck. Come with this little guy here. I think we're doing pretty good. We'll do the glass speck, I suppose. Everything's looking pretty good right now. So, fit on screen. Opacity, back up all the way, or the fill. Layer mask is next, right here. Invert it, Control or Command I. Go to your brush. I'm going to raise the brush. The hardness is still all the way down. Flow is up. Smoothing's down. Opacity's up. I know, and this is because I've done this 3 times, like I said, I know a part of the shadow I want to bring in. And that is just, and I'm pointing to the screen, which you cannot see my hands, just this section right here. Not really much else. So I am going to, go to the main image, and I'm going to brush in a little bit of shadow. And this time I'm going to be really careful because I know there's some issues with the shadow that I'm bringing in that I don't like. And again, it's just because I've seen this image now so many times. I'm going to bring this in just a little bit. I don't think I wanted it to go that far. So you can see when I'm brushing in, it's kind of, I'm trying to follow the light. I knew, like, for example, back here is way too bright. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo it, but I could have also gone to the eraser. And then this orange was also a troublesome issue for me. You can see because the light wasn't right, that doesn't fit. So that doesn't fit. So I don't think I ever really touched that orange. I think that's all I wanted. So really easy, but I don't actually like it being this dark in shadow. I mean, I do. I'm a big fan of dark and moody, but for this shot, I felt like it got too dark for where the light was, especially right here. So I think I'm going to actually erase this a little, but I don't want to erase all of it. So this is an interesting one. So here, I erase what I just added. But, oh, you can't see that yet because of what I was about to show you. Sorry, I erased what I don't want, and it gets really bright, but that was too much for me. Command Z, I'm going to undo it. So there's something you can do, and that is take the opacity of your brush down. However, there's a caveat with this, of that if this is at 50%, okay, and I brush over it, if I brush over it again, I've made it brighter again. It's not going to stay at that 50%, which means if you are using the opacity of a brush, not of the layer, but of the brush, if you go over it again, it's going to continue adding or taking away. So you have to be really, really careful to make things even. And what I like to do when I do that is I like to raise the size of the brush to help, so I don't have to repeat going over again, otherwise it becomes uneven. So I've just raised the opacity of the brush, and I can tell you that that's already too bright for me, so I'm going to undo it, and I'm going to lower the opacity now to 27, maybe that-ish. See, I know I'm doing the next step, so I'm going to lower it a little bit more. All right. Now, I actually didn't want all the shadows quite this dark, so I'm actually going to now come over to the layer tool over here. I'm on the mask again. I'm going to take the fill and I'm going to lower the fill. Now watch as these shadows, I'm going to go all the way and then, oops, that didn't show it. Watch the shadows move as I change the fill. See? That's that opacity again, right? So I don't want all of this here because it won't match the light since the light was slightly different. So I'm actually just going to lower to, you know, just something I feel comfortable with, a number that I like, that when I look at this image, it feels right to me. One of the things that I want to make sure of, and the reason I want it darker, but also don't want it too bright, don't want it too dark, is because I need this glass to stand out. That is the subject. These oranges, they're gorgeous. They're not the subject. And so I need to make sure that they don't draw all of the attention. So I'm going to actually bring it down fairly substantially here. Okay. That is the entire composite, except to do all the cleanup now. So I'm actually going to show you a few quick things, and then we'll kind of call it good. But I want to show you how I do some cleanup now. So the first thing is the most important thing to do is the subject is the glass. So let's zoom in on the glass, okay? And I want to first get rid of all the specks. Now remember, the glass, except for this orange and this ice cube, is actually 120, that layer, not the background. So I want to do some healing, spot healing, and cloning because that's the only way to get rid of all these specks. But in order to do that, I actually can't be on the mask anymore. I now actually have to go to the real image. So see where I'm clicking? I was on 120 of the mask, and now I'm clicking on the image on that layer. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the spot healing brush. The spot healing brush is something you don't need to take a sample of. The computer automatically takes a sample of what's around it. It's content aware, and it does its best for you. So it's really good for little flecks. For example, here it is. Yep, spot healing brush tool. And, oh, let's see, did that work? All right, see, look, that went away. And that went away. I'm just doing some cleanup. It doesn't always get it right, I will tell you that. It's certainly not perfect. Sometimes you do have to pull out the clone tool or pull out the healing brush, whatever you want to do. But it does a really good job for the most part, especially for small little layers, or I mean small little flecks. Here's a dog hair or a piece of lint. So just, you know, this is how I would go in, and I'd first do a first kind of round of cleaning up. And then I'd probably go around and I would keep moving on the layers, the different layers of the different pieces to remove any other flack. So here's a little water spot I don't like, spot. Okay, so that's that. Now, the next thing I want to do is I don't like this highlight. This should have gone to the edge. So this is still the 120 glass. So let's see if the healing brush can do its job, or the spot healing brush can do a good job right now. Not so much. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that. What if I take it smaller? I don't know. Let's see. I mean, that's not terrible, but it's not great. I might try the clone. So here's the clone tool over here. Hardness is down again. So, well, maybe. To take a sample, I have to hit Alt and then click. And then I'm going to scoot right over here. And to get a straight line, by the way, I was holding down Shift. Take another sample. Kind of do that. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. So you can keep cleaning up the rest of these images. I will zoom out here. Oops. Fit on screen. So you can keep cleaning it up, you know, all the different areas here. The last thing that I want to show you is something for the glass. I just started learning this, and it's the dodge and the burn tool. So this will just really bring clarity to your drinks. I don't know it that well yet. This is the first one I've just used it on. It was just brought up to me recently, so I can only give you a little bit of insight here on it. So for the dodge and burn tool, I'll come over here. I'm still on 120. I'm sorry, I need to be on the image. Just like the opacity layer for the highlight and eraser, there's this exposure section up here. I'm sorry, the highlight and the eraser, the brush and the eraser. There's an exposure section up here where if you go over the same thing more than once, it kind of keeps bringing in lighter, bringing in shadow, or erasing. So you just have to keep that in mind. But to bring in a little more clarity and vibrance to this drink, I'm going to go ahead and get on the dodge tool. And I'll start with the highlights, and I'll bring the brush size up quite a bit here. Let me zoom in a little bit more, okay? Come back to my dodge tool, and look, I'm just gonna draw right on top of this ice and these drinks, and it becomes so beautiful. And you can change this, do the midtones and the shadows, and I really don't have, like I said, tons of advice on it, just because I'm really only just starting out. But here I'll change to the midtones. I'll do the same thing. I'm really only just starting out with this, so I don't have tons of insight, but I did want to kind of provide you, just kind of show you what this did. The burn tool is going to bring things down. So with glasses, you always want it to be like highlight, shadow, or vice versa, where it's shadow, highlight, shadow, highlight. So in this case, I'm going to add a little bit more of shadow right here on the glass on the edge where the highlight ends. So I'm going to see if shift works to go straight. Probably not. Just a little bit here. Just a little bit. Maybe bring the highlights down a little bit. I'm not sure I should have brought the shadows down, but I'm just showing you what it does. I mean, I have it at exposure 30%, so it's not, you know, tons. Here, if I go to the background image I'm going to go back up to the dodge tool, bring some highlights back to that last ice cube. Let me lower the size. But this is it. This is the entire composite for the most part. What I do after I finish cleaning all of this up is I bring it back into Lightroom, and I would do any final edits to just the color of the image. I would choose my crop and I would export it, and then it would turn into what you see here. That is honestly pretty much everything. So hopefully you found this really helpful, this video helpful, and please let me know what else you want to know about. If you have any questions as you go through this, just, you know, ping me on, you can send the email via Eat Lift Be website. You can also ping me directly on Instagram. I will answer your questions if you have them as you go. Just let me know what you want to hear about. And then don't forget to, when you do this composite, when you read the articles and watch the video posts from the blog, don't forget to do the homework lessons, because if you do those and you follow the instructions and follow the hashtags, you can go ahead and you can get featured, which honestly, if you're going to be doing this anyway, why wouldn't you want to, on top of it, get a reward of getting featured on Instagram? Because, I mean, you were going to do this. Now it's going to become easier for you. And you get to let me help show off your incredible work to the world, or at least to the amount of followers that I currently have. So I will see you guys all next time. I hope this was helpful. Again, any questions, again, just reach out to me. And yeah, I will see you guys on the feed and in the next article. Bye.